Whew, so I just finished the entire Realm of the Elderlings saga for the first time in my life yesterday. Hey, Lo-Fi, and I can't stop thinking about these characters. What a series. I just want to talk about them all day. I might want to restart the series, but I've been wanting to rank the books in my personal order of worst to best, so here it goes. Ranking the Realm of the Elderlings. Okay, to note before I start, this will be a spoiler-free review of all the texts, and I will be including the texts within the Realm of the Elderlings that are optional, so the Willful Princess and the Piebald Prince, and the Inheritance short stories, as well as Words Like Coins, which was like an e-book that Robin Hobb released within the same universe. I also wanted to say, please don't mind this empty shelf. That is where all of the books previously were. And did you know? So these shelves are IKEA. What is it? The Billy bookshelves. And did you know that IKEA sized the lengths of the shelves to fit perfectly the entire series of the Realm of the Elderlings? That is the truth. That is why they are that length. It's very perfect. Yep. So at the very bottom of the list will be Words Like Coins. This was an ebook that I believe Robin Hobb wrote for a friend's fantasy anthology. And it was like a good 30 or so pages, I think, with some illustrations that did the same illustrations for a majority of the covers for the Realm of the Elderlings. The thing is, it just, to me, didn't feel like it needed to take place in the Realm of the Elderlings. It was okay, but it just felt like a side story that could fit into any fantasy genre. It was still well written, it just didn't really have an impact on me. I'm also just going to put it at the bottom because there is currently no physical way to own just that story, just in case I wanted to be a completionist about my books for the Realm of the Elderlings. So yeah, in terms of story it's fine, but in terms of that's just, I don't like it. Okay, so next at the very bottom of the physical text that I own is going to be City of Dragons. I just thought this book was meh. It was a lot of events, like a sequence of events just happening, and it just didn't really have a lot of strong character moments for me. It just felt like we're going from one thing to the next thing. It just kind of felt like a series of, I guess, graphic scenes that I just didn't really care for. We also got a point of view, I think it started in this book, for a character that I just didn't really care for. So yeah, I read this book and I immediately knew that I just did not enjoy it. It was still good writing, but definitely the weakest for me in the series. I'm honestly surprised that I ranked this one so low, but the next in the series that I thought was just meh is Assassin's Quest. This is the final book in the first trilogy, so the Farseer trilogy. I think my problem with this book mostly just stems from the fact that I had such a good time reading Royal Assassins, so coming from that book to this book, I feel like any installment of the series just would have had a hard time following up with that book. But also this particular book was just very transient and very in between. There's a lot of traveling and pacing issues I didn't like. The final twists at the end of the book were cool, but they also felt to me a little soap opera-y. Still a great book. It just left me wanting more, and that's fine. Next on the list is Blood of Dragons. So this is the final book in the Rainwild Chronicles, Rainwild Quartet, whatever you want to call it. There was one character moment that I really liked towards the end between two love interest characters. I thought that was a really well-written sequence. I think a lot of this book was mostly just lore drops. A lot of characters changed, not all of them that I really liked, and what else can I really say about this book? It just didn't have as much of an impression. Pacing issues. Oh, and I remember now. So the main conflict, like the final conflict peak tension point in this book, I thought was really, really short. I think maybe I would have liked to see it be a little longer, and that was just that was just something on my mind. Next on the list is Assassin's Apprentice, the very first book in the entire series. I think I hear this opinion a lot, that a lot of people read this book and it feels very prologue-esque, more like a prologue to events to come than it does feel like a self-contained story. And I think that's fine. It was good, and when I first read this, I could tell like there was something there, so that's why I kept going. It still had some pretty good quotes. I actually really like that the first work in the entire series is this low on the list. It kind of it means that the series drastically improves from that point. Kind of like how season 1 of Avatar, The Last Airbender, was just kind of meh. But then as you go, like season 3, so I get the same vibes from this book. Really good, showed a lot of potential, and it's honestly great that this is so low on the list, and watching the writers' writing get better and better was very satisfying. Next on the list is The Golden Fool. This is the second book in the Tawny Man trilogy, and I really wanted to like this book, but it was just so many things happening, pretty slow, and it felt like it was a setup book for events to come. My personal beef with this book is probably a mistake I made. I read the back of the book, like the little summary of what to expect from the book, and it actually spoiled something that happened in the book. Like, I kid you not, it happened halfway in the entire book. So I was reading all the slow moments, waiting for the moment on the back of the book to happen, and it happened at the halfway mark. Like, I that's crazy to me that you're going to spoil something, a major thing that happens at the halfway point, and this is, like, I kid you not, a 700 something page book, so that's a lot to read through. But yeah, I did really like that character moment, so it is higher than some other books on this list, but yeah, could have been higher. It just, pacing, Robin Hobb, pacing. Okay, moving right on along, we have Fool's Quest. I'm honestly surprised that I rank this as low as it is. For Fool's Quest, I think I really like how the pacing at the beginning was like super fast. So many things happening. It felt like Royal Assassin all over again. But then it didn't keep up that pace. Like, there were some incredible moments, and I grew really attached to a lot of new characters introduced in this final trilogy. But for me, pacing again, a lot of the books in the bottommost of my list just have a lot of pacing issues that I felt annoyed at. In this particular book, I think after the main conflict, the resolution was maybe some 200 pages. I think that was the same issue with The Golden Fool, the previous book that I just mentioned, of just really, like, the action has left and there's still a lot more exposition, but in the resolution for the next coming chapters. And the ending of this particular book just didn't have as high of stakes as other ones, in my opinion. So yeah, could have been higher, but not a bad middle grade book in the series. So next on the list is another optional text in the entire series. This is The Willful Princess and the Piebald Prince. I liked this because it tells a lot of lore, and it tells a nice two sets of contained stories, and it did it in 150 pages, which was my beef, and why I rank it higher than the other books that I just mentioned is because it was able to tell these stories and tell just enough of it. I will always rank a text that is able to tell a self-contained story in just the right amount of words, instead of the ones that just feel like there's too much and it drags along and there's so many details that I think, did it really need to be there? With this one, it could have been higher. I was just frustrated with, I think, the narrator of this story. It wasn't really an explicit character choice they made. I was just really frustrated by their inactions, I suppose. This is the next in the ranking, The Inheritance, and this is actually a list of short stories by the author who used both pseudonyms Robin Hobb and Megan Lindholm. So the first half of the book, or I guess first 2/3 of the book, are short stories and commentary by the author, and then the last 3 are specifically written under the name Robin Hobb, and the last 3 take place in the realm of the Elderlings. So this ranking only applies to those 3 stories and not the entire book. So the 3 short stories in here that take place in the realm of the Elderlings is Homecoming, The Inheritance, and Cat's Meat. They were all about the same in terms of writing quality and story, and I think the bottommost on the list of those 3 short stories is The Inheritance, which is still really good. I really liked it. The only reason the other 2 stories are higher is just because they have themes and sequence of events that I liked more. I really liked Cat's Meat because it gave perspective to an animal character, and I love when Robin Hobb does that. I love the narrative that character was able to provide, or the actions they were able to contribute to the story in Cat's Meat. And then the first of the short stories is going to be Homecoming, because Homecoming was kind of a really nice addition to read after the Rainwild Chronicles. It just added a really cool kind of exploration, dread, survival, ghost storiness feel to it, and it expands on that aspect of the realm of the Elderlings universe. And there was like a short little love story in there too, so I really liked that one. Nice and spooky, really good, and yeah, all 3 of these short stories were just really, really good. Thank you, Robin Hobb. Next on the list is Dragon Keeper, and a lot of people say they have a really hard time getting into the Rainwild Chronicles. A lot of people, call these like a young adult, or it feels very young adult instead of adult fantasy. I disagree. I really like the first 2 books in the Rainwild Chronicles. I really like a lot of the characters that were introduced in this book. I really resonated with just where they were coming from, or their sense of inner conflict, I should say, to keep it spoiler free. This is a good book. Angsty, yes, but I love it. I love angst. I love sad characters. I have a problem. And ranking just a hair higher than Dragon Keeper is Dragon Haven. There was a character moment here where one of the characters essentially just experienced love for the first time, and I think that's the key reason why I loved this installment just a hair more than the rest of the installments of the Rainwild Chronicles. Like, I loved that so much, and I think a lot of the character arcs were wrapped up pretty neatly in this part of the Rainwild Chronicles. Yeah, it was just, watching the character development here was just very nice. I loved it. Whew. Alright, next on the list is Ship of Magic. I love the live ship traders. Yes, it was really hard initially to start this book and to start the live ship traders, but once it got going, I fell in love with so many characters, including Malta. Like, yes, she was an easy character to hate in the beginning, but I still resonated with that really ugly part of her because it just connected with, I guess, an aspect of my personal girlhood and childhood. Yeah, I fell in love with these characters. There was so much happening, and I really liked the pacing. This was the book also where I just fell in love with Althea and Brashen. I just love their story together. They're so sweet. I couldn't stop flipping pages. I love the live ship traders so much, and this was an excellent introduction. Okay, controversial opinion, maybe, but next on the list is going to be the final book in the series, Assassin's Fate. So I loved the ending. I think this book delivers a perfect ending for all or nearly all of the characters. I think just as a standalone book, it was pacing issues that kind of let me down. One of the main characters I just thought also made a lot of decisions in this book, but the final trilogy overall, that I just thought did not fit their character. I won't mention who, but also coming back to the pacing issues, I feel like the entire first half of the book they were still introducing new characters. There was still a lot of like exposition before the final battle happening, and I got really bored of it. And then a lot of the second half, the action was great, the stakes were great, But there was also just a lot of graphic points in this book that it just kept going. It just kept going, which is weird to say because there's a lot of graphic scenes all throughout this series, but I guess at this point I was just getting tired of it. But yeah, fantastic book, great ending. I think there were just some other character moments and other pieces of writing that I liked in other books, so I think that's the only reason why it's this low and is not higher. Next on the list is Fool's Assassin. I did like Fool's Assassin more than I liked Assassin's Fate. You get introduced to a new character here who also, we also get a new point of view in these books, and this book is notoriously slow, and I ate up every minute of it. I loved how all of these slow details still felt really necessary for this character development and understanding why these characters behave this way. I love books that just really explore grief, and this book does that well. And I think the cliffhanger at the end of the book was also very well done. I could not stop flipping pages. But yeah, I really liked this book, and I think it is my favorite of the final trilogy. Okay, the last couple books, we're cutting hairs because they're all just fantastic, and really the only reason they're ranked the current way is just because of personal opinion and favoritism in certain character moments. But next on the list is Fool's Errand. I'm surprised that this isn't higher on the list, but this book is so good. It's the vibes are exactly what I love, mostly taking place back in the Six Duchies. It's a really good return to home kind of book because the live ship traders, you really do miss Fitz and you miss the world of Buckkeep, and then you come back into, there's cozy vibes, there's cottage vibes, there's cabin vibes. This book is so powerful and so sad. The chapter titled, I think, Sacrifice was just so well written and was such a beautiful plot twist, and it's lasting. This book is sad but perfect, and I felt like the resolution, it didn't feel like a lot of unnecessary or pacing issues of introducing characters late in the game, which Robin Hobb has done in the previous books I've mentioned. I got excited towards the epilogue of this book for what was to come. So fantastic book. If I ever do rereads, I might rank it higher. So good. So emotional. Okay, next on the list is The Mad Ship. This is the second book in the Live Ship Traders, and all I need to say, Paragon. I love Paragon. Just reading about the internal conflicts, the external conflicts within that character, and also just the character development of Malta, and also just all of the action going on in this book. The stakes were high, the lore drop was dropping and lowering. It was just so good. I can't think of a moment in this book that I thought wasn't necessary. I loved reading this book. I loved it so much. So good. I love all these characters. I didn't think I was a pirate person. Live Ship Traders changed me. Okay, final three. Number 3 in my favorite Realm of the Elderlings books is Ship of Destiny, and I think that's an unpopular opinion. A lot of people bring up a certain sexual assault event that happened in this book, and yes, I saw, or I read it, but also I think Robin Hobb handled writing that well, and I think it was just the way that this book handles discussing and reflecting on cycles of violence and what would you call it, trauma, generational trauma. It's so powerful, I think, and just the way the final conflict of this book, I think, was just really well written, and it just, the pacing, okay, to be fair, the first half of the pacing, but I think just how well written the conflict was and how perfect and fulfilling the ending felt to me in this book is why I actually like this book a little bit more than the mad ship, just because the characters were charactering. Everything just felt, I just connected with the characters, and everything that happened just felt so true to who they were. So good. I love this book so much. Okay, my final two favorite books in the series, no contest, I don't even have to think about it. Number 2 is Royal Assassin. This book is where everything changed. This is the second book in the entire series, and this is where I thought, shit, Robin Hobb is something special. I love these characters. Holy shit. Also, Night Eyes. I don't need to say anything else. Read it for Night Eyes. I personally just love books or any piece of media where it talks about wolves and being in the wilderness and depicts just that kind of connection with an animal companion. I don't want to talk too much more about spoilers, but the action, I thought this book was very quickly paced. I thought there was just the perfect amount of tension here. I kept reading. The romance was romancing. The tragedy was tragedy-ing. I love it. Royal Assassin. Mwah, perfect. Oh, and the ending. Also the ending. And of course, my number 1 favorite book in the entire series is Fool's Fate. Okay, there were so many character moments here that happened between characters that haven't interacted since the first trilogy that were just so well handled and so powerful. And I was a mess. I sobbed so many times while reading this. Tears of sadness, tears of joy, just I never knew that I could fall in love with characters this way. I also just really resonate a lot with books that handle themes of death, and this book does that really well. But it doesn't do so, okay, well, it's Fitz, so it's going to be sad. But it was also, there were pockets of joy in there too from certain characters. There were so many quotes that I just loved. So memorable. I love this book. I love this book so much. I thought about getting this character or this piece of art tattooed on me. Who knows? I might this weekend. I don't know. I love this book. It's so good. I don't know what to do with my life. I'm gonna keep talking about the Realm of the Elderlings because I just finished it yesterday and I don't know what to do. Feel free to share your thoughts if they were the same, if they were different. I could talk to anybody about this series.